Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Lord Kapila, the personality of Godhead, replied, O noble lady, there are multifarious paths of devotional service in terms of the different qualities of the executor. Purport: pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness is one, because in pure devotional service there is no demand from the devotee to be fulfilled by the Lord. But generally people take to devotional service with a purpose. As stated in Bhagavad-gita, people who are not purified take to devotional service with 4 purposes. A person who is distressed because of material conditions becomes a devotee of the Lord and approaches the Lord for mitigation of his distress. A person in need of money approaches the Lord to ask for some improvement in his monetary condition. Others who are not in distress or in need of monetary assistance, but are seeking knowledge in order to understand the absolute truth, also take to devotional service, and they inquire into the nature of the Supreme Lord. This is very nicely described in Bhagavad-gita. Actually, the path of devotional service is one without a second, but according to the devotee's condition, devotional service appears in multifarious varieties, as will be nicely explained in the following verses. So, Lord Kapila Dev begins speaking here saying that Bhakti Yoga Bahuvidha. Bhakti Yoga is in many forms. And Prabhupada starts his purport by saying that pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness is one. So Prabhupada immediately seems to be contradicting what Kapila Dev is saying. Bhakti Yoga means to serve Krishna for his pleasure. But it may be that this is bhakti, pure devotional service. Bhakti Yoga, this term can be broadly applied to mean bhakti that is performed. There is linking with Krishna through the process of devotional service. But there's some holding back also. So it's not this real yoga is not there. Real joining together is not there. So actual bhakti is one. It falls within one category, that is one broad category of simply wanting to serve Krishna for his pleasure. But then there are others who may want to, they may want some material benefit or liberation. Therefore, there is Kama Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Yoga Mishra Bhakti. But actual bhakti is without any mixing. So these terms are given Shuddha Bhakti also, to distinguish it from Mishrit Bhakti, mixed up bhakti. So we say like this, Shuddha Bhakti, Shuddhanam, Sadguru, all these terms are there. But actually bhakti means Shuddha. There's no such thing. If it's Ashuddha, then it's not bhakti. It's not actually bhakti. But we say Karma Mishra Bhakti or Jnana Mishra Bhakti. It's not pure devotional service. It is not really bhakti, but something is there. It's not actual bhakti, but there's some admixture of bhakti. Or it may be around the other way, that bhakti is predominant and some material desires are there. Or maybe that material desires are prominent and some devotional service is there. Some beginning of bhakti is there. But real bhakti means that it's completely pure. So when it's mixed up, then it's not actual bhakti. But this will be described in the upcoming verses. There's some kind of move towards Krishna or recognition of Krishna, or that in some way we are dependent on Krishna. In pure devotional service, one recognizes one's complete dependence upon Krishna. In mixed devotional service, one recognizes one's dependence upon Krishna, but one doesn't fully submit to that. That I'm dependent upon Krishna. I have my goals, but I need Krishna to help me get that. But pure devotional service is without any other goal, simply that we feel my only desire is to serve Krishna, and I'm completely dependent upon Him in all respects. So like this, we have Shuddha Bhakti, Shuddha Nam. Krishna Nam is Shuddha. There's no question of Krishna Nam not being pure. But we speak of Nama Aparada, Nama Bhas, to indicate the chanting of the holy names in the state of impurity of the chanter, not that the holy name is impure. So like that we say Sadguru. If he's not Sat, then he's not Guru, then he's a rascal. But we say Sadguru to distinguish between those who are actually Gurus and who aren't. The problem is that the term Sadguru in modern North Indian languages, Hindi, Punjabi, it's come to mean Asadguru, because they don't know what Sat means. So anyone with a long beard who walks around, and especially if he has these wooden karams, these clunk, these shoes, and speaks something from the Upanishads and speaks some Mayavad, and people think Sadguru. So this Achintya Chaitanya told me, he was translating in Punjabi and saying, always they put in the term Sadguru, which is for spiritual master, but actually that term is all right, but it's so much misunderstood that when people read it, they read. If they actually knew what it meant, the original meaning of the term, that would be all right, but they don't, so they misinterpret it. So they read, one has to approach a Sadguru, and then, I read this in the book, and I'll go to some Mayavadi. So everything should be understood very clearly. Bhakti Yoga, when we say this is Bhakti, mixed devotional service, it's also Bhakti. It is in one sense, but it's not desirable. And it should be clearly understood that anything else except full surrender to Krishna is not desirable. It's not acceptable. It's not in our own self-interest. It's envious of Krishna. Actually, those who are performing mixed devotional service means that they are maintaining their envy of Krishna while at the same time approaching Him. So it's it's material. In material consciousness, one approaches someone in friendship, but the friendship is for the sake of getting something. And whatever, we may respect someone, but that respect is, we respect someone because we may even have very, very high regard for them. This is a very great person, they're performing welfare work, because we feel that they're doing something valuable for human society, but it's all based on envy of Krishna and envy of that person actually. So in the same way we approach God, we approach Bhagavan, that we approach Him with apparent bhakti, but actually we want something from Him. So it's envy. It's envy of His position as the enjoyer, wanting to take from Him, that I should enjoy separately from Him. So Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, these positions are better than being completely animalistic. But from the perspective of pure devotional service, they're not praiseworthy. So therefore bhakti has to be anyabhilashita shunya. Actual bhakti has to be executed with at least the intention of becoming free from material desires. In ISKCON, those who are in the pure Vaishnava Sampradaya, they are supposed to come to Uttama Bhakti. We are not encouraging Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Now, that doesn't mean that one is disqualified from coming if one has material contamination. There's a difference between having material contaminations and cultivating materialistic motivations. It's understood that we have material contaminations. That's why we're in this material world. But devotional service should be taken up with the sincere desire to get free from material contaminations and become a pure devotee without any material desires. That's why we have anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam. This formula is given. We should accept only that which is favorable for cultivating pure devotional service and should reject everything that is against that principle. We should give up behavior, attitudes, association, food, occupation, everything that is antithetical to the principle of pleasing Krishna. So the desire may be there in the mind, but by starving that desire for material enjoyment and by nourishing the desire for acting for Krishna's enjoyment, one becomes purified and becomes a completely pure devotee, free from all desires. This is the process of Bhakti Yoga. Anyapilashita shunyam. Now, devotional service executed specifically maintaining material desires or maintaining the desire for liberation, which is also a material desire, but that's often distinguished from the gross material desires of wanting to enjoy this material world. You could say it's a spiritual come materially mixed desire. Actually, it's material. It's not really spiritual. But it's not grossly material, and it appears to be spiritual in as much as if that desire is fulfilled, that liberation from material existence, that means we come to a different platform than the material, therefore it's called spiritual, but it's not spiritual in the full sense. It's neither material in as much as we want to get free from the material condition, nor is it really spiritual, because really spiritual means that mukti hedvanyata rupam swarupena vyavastitihi. Mukti means giving up the material situation and accepting the spiritual situation of being situated in one's own form. So it's real liberation doesn't mean only giving up the material situation, but it means positively accepting the spiritual situation. And without knowledge of that, or without accepting that, those who desire liberation but who don't cultivate the desire to satisfy Krishna, then their liberation is incomplete and may be considered materialistic, because it comes to the same point. One has to boomerang back into material life. Having gone away from material life, you have to come back again. So only pure, this Lord Kapila Dev he will explain in the next few verses what is the situation of different persons, those who are dominated by the mode of ignorance, mode of passion, the mode of goodness, how they take to devotional service, and what is the situation of one in pure devotional service. So he demonstrates how the situation, he shows how a devotee in the state of pure devotional service, his position is much better. This is desirable. If one is executing devotional service with material desires, if one is specifically cultivating material desires, that will not purify one in the same way that cultivating devotional service without material desires does. The actual purification cannot take place, because it's like pouring petrol with one hand into the fire and with the other pouring water. The proper result isn't there. One just gets a lot of smoke. So this point should be understood very clearly. That's why at the beginning of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Srila Rupa Goswami gives this definitive, the guide, which is to the whole book, the whole understanding. This anyabhilashita shunyam jnana kamadhyana vritamanakulyana krishnanushilanam bhakti rutama. That this book is not this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This is about bhakti ras, there's no bhakti ras if there is cultivation of material desire, if there's cultivation of desires for karma or jnana. Bhukti mukti spriha yavat pishachi hridi vartate tavat bhakti sukhasyatra katam abhyudayo bhavet. As long as the witch-like desires for material enjoyment or liberation reside within the heart, then where's the question of the spiritual pleasure of serving Krishna? It doesn't take place. So bhakti ras arises from the pure desire to serve Krishna. By cultivating the desire for contaminated rasa, perverted rasa, one cannot get the spiritual rasa. It's a simple point to understand. So it's another kind of mayavad to say that, well, you can do devotional service in any way, and as long as you're chanting, it's okay. It's just saying that pure and impure, sat and asat, bhakti and non-bhakti, purity and impurity, it's all the same. It's another kind of mayavad, which is resorted to by persons who are contaminating the process of devotional service. And it may seem like bhakti, but it's so dangerous that it kills bhakti actually. And this we see, this how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was fighting so strongly against the upper sampradayas, and it seems that, why was he so strong? Because he had to be. Otherwise, the pure path of devotional service wouldn't be covered by thorns. That is stated by Prabodhananda Saraswati in Kali Yuga. Shri Bhakti Marga Iha Kantaka Koti Ruddha. In Kali Yuga, the path of devotional service is covered by millions of thorns. So these millions of thorns, one major manifestation of them is the misinterpretations of devotional service, which might seem like bhakti. There are so many different forms of that. Prakrita Sahajya, who think, well, bhakti is natural, so let me just be natural. I'll be myself. They say that in Croatian also. Be yourself. It's the new age kind of. Just be yourself, which translates into be an animal. Because if you don't know who you are yourself, I am the servant of Krishna, then it means that don't control your senses, don't act according to any guidelines, just do whatever you feel like. So sahaj means that which is easy or natural. So prakrita sahajyas, they just, well, whatever you feel like, you just do it, and that's bhakti. So a very dangerous contamination. Or the Gauranagaris, they say that, well, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is enjoying the young women of Nadia, just like Krishna enjoyed the young women of Vraja. So in this way they want to spoil Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's role, that he came himself to act as a young woman, not to enjoy the young woman. He in the Radha Bhava Dyuti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Sarupam. He came in with Radha Bhava, in the role of a young woman, in the mood of a young woman. But they want to spoil that and make him into the enjoyer. So in so many ways they have misinterpreted. And so Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was so strongly against them. The Kula Gurus, they're claiming that they could be spiritual guides on the basis of some material qualification. So we don't see that nowadays. At least in ISKCON, we don't see that Kula Guru idea. But the same point can be there, that if because of some institutional position, if one insists that or if one equates institution, somehow or other someone gets some position of authority, and that is institutional position is equated with spiritual advancement, well, that's very dangerous. Because the symptoms of spiritual advancement are given in Shastra, and nowhere it says that because one is the head of an institution, or because he's expert in handling the money or something like that, that you become, that is the symptom of spiritual advancement. Of course, we do have an institution, and institutions have their own needs also, and within institutions, as within any institution, whether it's a school or a political party or the army, there's a hierarchy, and those who are in a senior position, they have to be respected. This idea of absolute democracy, everyone's voice should be heard, it doesn't work. It's not practical in any sphere of human life. You imagine you go to work in some factory, and then immediately you want to, my voice and the manager's voice should be the same. And you just joined one day previously. You don't have any experience, you don't have any position. You're just carrying out the garbage. And you say, my position, you should listen to my voice also. Forget it, we're not listening to your voice. You listen to my voice. Take out the garbage or you don't get paid. Finished. So that is there. Within an institution there must be respect for authority, for organizational matters, but it doesn't necessarily hold that one who is of institutional position is necessarily more spiritually advanced. It may be that he's more materially competent or materially ambitious or whatever. So these various contaminations, if we don't distinguish between what is actual pure bhakti according to the shastric descriptions, if we don't distinguish between what is actually pure bhakti and what isn't, then we're liable to suppose that which is not bhakti to be bhakti and vice versa. Even this point of institutional loyalty that can be. I'm just saying this because I got a letter the other day that saying that I was saying that I had some serious misgivings about a certain godbrother because of some serious deviation in behavior. And then someone wrote back there, but he's loyal to ISKCON. But that being loyal to ISKCON is not a substitute for following the rules and regulations of devotional service. And being loyal to ISKCON, what does that mean actually? I mean, one should follow the rules of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And actually Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu doesn't even talk about the normal rules of human life which are given by Manu. I mean, he doesn't talk about how family man should not run away with someone should not run away with someone else's wife. He doesn't discuss these things because that's what's called a given. It's just accepted, it's just understood. That's a basic human dharma. But so if one thinks that yes, you can run off with someone's wife, but I'm loyal to ISKCON, so that's the greatest quality which overrides everything. That's another mistake in which we're going to, if we think that if you just, it's just like the Christians may say, I believe in Jesus, and then you do any damn nonsense you like, and then you keep a picture of Prabhupada and say, yes, I believe in Prabhupada, and you don't follow what he says, then, or you have a big sign, ISKCON. Yes, I'm loyal to ISKCON. I give donations to the GBC members or whatever, but then you don't follow the basic principles of devotional service. Then what is that? That's not spiritual advancement. And they were saying, well, he still gives very good lectures, but why should someone give lectures? You have to see. First acha, then pracha. First one has to one shouldn't preach if he's talking all big high principles, the gopis, this, that, and so many things, bhav, but one doesn't even follow the basic principles of human behavior. So these things can become institutional. Actually, they have already. Because, well, that's another big question. Because we don't study the books very carefully, or we may reinterpret them. This is going on rampantly at the present time. And we say, well, that's all right, but you see, we have to adjust for the modern age. Which is true. Some allowance has to be made for the modern age, but the basic principles of Shastra do not change because it's Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is very bad, but the process of devotional service is meant to help us rise above the influence of Kali Yuga. Not that we say, well, it's Kali Yuga, therefore we'll just do bhakti and we won't follow anything because it's Kali Yuga. No, that's not a correct understanding. Rather, yes, it is Kali Yuga and it's very bad, but if we follow the principles of devotional service, we become free from the influence of Kali Yuga. Not that because it's Kali Yuga we don't have to follow. That's another misinterpretation. Or again, I'm loyal to Prabhupada. Again, we shouldn't Christianize Prabhupada and say, I believe in Prabhupada. It's just like the Christians say, well, I believe in Jesus and I don't do anything he says, but I believe in him. But Jesus himself is recorded as saying that many people will call out to me, but I will not hear them. He came to teach. He didn't just say that, well, you stick a picture of me on the wall and you believe in me. That's Sai Baba, that kind of thing. There's no principles to follow. So all these dangerous misinterpretations are taking place and becoming solidified in our movement, and in this way the devotional service within ISKCON is becoming bahuvidha, many forms, instead of ekeha, one way, which is pure devotional service. By adjusting, compromising, reinterpreting, what is pure devotional service is becoming, what is the nature of pure devotional service is becoming obfuscated. You know what that means? It means covered over. Because we're, like I say, we're reinterpreting it. We're so much anxious to do everything indirectly that we forget what the direct thing is. We have to bring people gradually to what? We bring them gradually nowhere, just to the indirect process, and then that's it. And you finish there. This misunderstanding that if you chant Hare Krishna, then you can just whatever else you do, everything's okay. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never said that. Nor did Rupa Goswami write Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu if it was just you chant Hare Krishna and then you just don't follow anything else. So it's a simple point to understand, but it's the cheating mentality has entered. So let us follow Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, what Bhagavan says. In the next verse, devotional service executed by a person who is envious, proud, violent and angry, who is a separatist, is considered to be in the mode of darkness. And you say, well, it's devotional service. See, it says devotional service. You can also be in the mode of ignorance and do devotional service, and you can be envious, proud, violent and angry and a separatist, and you can do devotional service. It says right there, you can do. But the result will not be the same as that of executing devotional service beyond the modes of nature. You can do, you can interpret like that if you want. But if you do so, that will not be pleasing to Krishna. That will not purify the heart. Any question? Yeah.
You spoke about, sometimes you can see in the past of ISKCON that many devotees who are practicing serious devotional service, they learn the movement. So does it mean that we should also start ourselves to learn, or also to start to teach, like old shastras like Manusmritis, and which is a normal behavior of the living life.
Should we teach Manusmriti?
Or some other shastra like Dharma Shastra means to develop.
Should we speak the Dharma Shastras along with devotional service? Well, it's a big topic of discussion but it appears to me that in ISKCON at the present time we need to teach some basic principles of human behavior, and that's being addressed in the Western countries by teaching. But what are they teaching? Instead of teaching through Shastra, they're teaching through Stephen Covey and all this kind of thing. They're seeing there's a need for that. But instead of going to Shastra, you can teach what is good character by the traditional method is from Ramayana and Mahabharata. That's how you teach moral behavior. But if you do it through Stephen Covey or all these, what happens is that it seems like it's very good, but the contamination comes with it. And just like I was telling one devotee, when I just arrived in America last year, he was driving me from the airport. He said, well, we're going to this, they're giving us this Grihasta counseling. And I said, well, it's adding to the problem. It's making the problem worse. They're telling you that you should live husband and wife, don't divorce, this and that. But the way they're teaching, they're actually making it more likely for you to divorce, because it's all based on psychology, and you try to adjust husband and wife psychologically, which will never work. And the whole idea is that they say we're trying to make our marriage work. As soon as you say that, you can understand it's not going to work. Because if that means you're trying to balance each other, it never works. And then if it doesn't work, if you don't adjust with each other, then you divorce. Like one of these most prominent voices on this Grihasta counseling, whatever it is, she's divorced and remarried, and said, well, I had to divorce because it was just too bad. But there's no such thing as divorce in Vedic culture. So what's this? Had to. I had to. So if she can, then others can also. So they're just making the problem worse by giving the wrong kind of advice, which seems to them to be very good, because they're ignorant. They don't have faith in Shastra. Ya Shastra vidim utsrija vartate kama karata nasa siddha vavnati nasu kamna parangatin. Well, they may say, well, we also teach according to Shastra. Forget your also. If you put Shastra up and, oh yeah, Shastra also says what the kamis say. It's useless. They don't accept the Shastra is the guide for human society. And actually by that they become Gnostic. Gnostic means one who doesn't have faith in Shastra. If one superficially has faith in Shastra, if you think that Shastra says something good, the Kamis also says something good, and we can all mix it up, then it's all useless. So what was that? Should we teach Manu? Well, definitely it's a lot better than teaching some Kami psychology. They don't know what they're talking about anyway. There's as many psychological theories as there are psychologists. There's all kinds of different theories. So previously people, if they had a problem, they'd go to the guru. Guru means, first of all, there's their parents. First of all, they didn't have so many problems because society wasn't so complex. Mostly people didn't have so many problems. Even at home, their husband and wife didn't like each other. They'd live. They'd go on with life. That's all. They didn't like each other, and anyway, they'd just go on. It wasn't a big, it's just bad luck, that's all. They didn't make a big... But in the modern world, the whole idea is, you have to... Everything is geared how I should be happy. So if you don't like your wife, then divorce her, that's all. There was no thought of it previously. You don't get along with your wife, then too bad, You just have to live with her. And she doesn't like you, you have to live with her, that's all. You just go on. And then if you think like that, then it's not so bad after all anyway. So they put all the stress on how you should be happy instead of putting the stress on following dharma. How to teach Manu? Yeah, we have to see how to teach exactly what Manu says in the modern age. Well, Prabhupada clearly says that Manu is the law book for all mankind in all times. Although, where is it elsewhere? It stated that I believe Parashara Smriti is said to be for Kali Yuga.
Or Mukundadatta, he mentioned that we need Hitopadesh.
Hitopadesh, yeah. Let us learn through Shastra, through the traditional means. Like I was saying, morality, you learn morality and good character from Ramayana and Mahabharata, and you find out from these that even however great you may be, if you're not a good character, then you're finished. You see from the examples of Ravana, or even Karna seems very noble, but he was on the wrong. He was nobly supporting the wrong cause. So these are very valuable for instruction. Here in Tamil Nadu, was that what's that called? That there's a didactic book, so many sayings. Tirukoil. Tirukurai. I can't pronounce it. Tirukurai. That's actually written by a Shaiva, isn't it? It's said to be collected by a Shaiva.
It's not known actually.
It's not
even
clear.
the person is not known. They just gave it the name. Who wrote its life is very unknown.
But it follows Shastric ideas. Sometimes they say a Buddhist wrote it because there was Buddhism. Buddhism was prominent all over India at one time, including here.
It's not known. I think Atmadatta says is Vaishnava.
Written by a Vaishnava. Yeah, the Vaishnavas will say it's written by a Vaishnava, and the Shaivas it'll say it's written by a Shaiva. It's like Jagannath. The Shaivas say he's Jagannath, and the Buddhists say he's Buddha.
There is some Sri Vaishnava commentary on.
There is, that's interesting. Anyway, the point I'm making is that we do have in our tradition the guide for human society, all these things, and why we have to go. It's this same puffed up idea that actually in America we're better, we know everything better. So yeah, we should teach generic dharma, ordinary human dharma, that should be taught. That is required. Actually, that's a prerequisite for studying Vedanta. One should know first of all what is Dharma Shastra. Then Atato Brahma Jignasa. Atato means now. Now means having gone through all that stuff. Then you can inquire into higher philosophy. And now we have cigar smoking, beer drinking scholars of Vedanta. So what can they understand? Mukundadatta, he understands, he's very good. He knows these points very well. He's very perspicacious. He has keen insight into all these things. Perspicacious means to have keen insight, sharp intelligence to understand things. Just look what happened to him. He's following nicely and then his wife just went crazy after so many years.
Maybe it's Krishna that he can, it's not but he can preach.
Maybe, but a lot of his preaching was that he was husband and wife living happily for so many years and then she went crazy. Unfortunate. It's a bad age.
We can also say like it's influence of other people. Or in Vedic age, there was no.
The whole culture was supportive to spiritual advancement, and in ISKCON we should promote that. Instead, at the present time, it seems like that we're promoting a culture which is not supportive to pure devotional service in many cases. We'll say, oh, don't be so fanatic. If you just want to follow the basic things which are required for spiritual advancement, such as rising early, People say, don't be so fanatical. So they're actually your enemies, anyone who says like this. I can't think of them as devotees.